Welcome back everyone. So this video is going to be all the basics of fishing. So we're going to cover everything from what tackle you need, what gear, how to cast, where to find fish, what you can expect to catch, you know, the tides, the times, all that sort of stuff. Everything a complete beginner might need to know to catch a fish, we'll cover in this video.
See, Denise, you'd be dropping them too if you were catching them. Denise is hooked on. Alright, so when you're looking to locate the fish, there's a few little things you can do to sort of suss out where they might be holding up. So obviously, and probably the most easiest to use a fish finder, but we forgot our battery today. So some other things you can look for is deep water, for flathead, like your sandy beaches, they like those. Anywhere where bait fish might hold up, so you've got like the fallen tree there, for example, you've got all the mangroves there. Anywhere you see sort of just life in general, so if you've got cormorants diving or pelicans feeding on the surface or even like a bust off of bait, they're all really good signs that there should be some fish around. But yeah, they're sort of the, if it's more shallow water stuff you're doing, you can just spot the fish. But any sort of structure, so weed beds, rock walls, you know, sunken trees, sunken rocks, that sort of stuff, fish will hold up. Deep water, shallow water, depending on what you're targeting. Yeah, they're the sorts of things that you're looking for. So as you guys can hopefully see on the GoPro here, just right in front of us, about there, we've got a fallen tree with a few cormorants, actually with a parental cormorant and a few young ones diving around there. So that's a really good sign. Oh, I can even see them eating the fish. So that's a really good sign that there's some bait held up around that structure. And I wouldn't cast there now because I don't want the birds to eat my lure, but that could be a spot to note for future if you want to, you know, get a lure and sort of flick it in around that structure. You might pick up a few fish around there. So there you go. So in terms of what you can expect to catch, I would say probably the three most common fish that we're seeing in the estuary are probably like your flathead, your brim, and maybe like a tailor or something. I find those what we catch the most on lures. And obviously you can get your rarer things, like you can get your eels, your mulloway, your stingray, stuff like that. But it's generally those three, your flathead, your tailor, and your brim. So specifics for fish. So if you're fishing brim, honestly personally, my go-to for brim is either like a bloodworm grub or a prawn imitation. And I'm fishing that very light. Usually the heaviest I'll go is like a 1/6 ounce and usually sort of work down from there. In certain times the brim do hold up in deeper water, in which case I might use a vibe or something akin to target them. But yeah, that's generally the go for brim. Prawn imitations or like a little grub with a light jig head. Yeah, bloodworm wrigglers will work really well as well. You just need to make sure that's a smaller profile, because otherwise you'll be catching not what you're targeting. Tailor are probably one of the more simple fish to catch, because all you do is just cast out and just want it in straight away. They're particularly active on days where you've got a bit of wind, bit of chop, you know, there's that sort of surface disturbance. They feel a bit more comfortable sort of cruising along and smashing things. But yeah, if you are just targeting specifically tailor, I'd go either a vibe or a plastic and just whack it out there, retrieve it in. So for flathead, pretty much anything will work. In all honesty, it's often you'll find even when you're targeting other species, you'll catch flathead. But generally 1/4 ounce with either a paddle tail or a wriggler, and all your vibes as well. The flatties will smash pretty much all of them.
That would have been good though.
Yeah, I dropped it. I reckon it was a little flatty.
You drop fish way too many times.
Denise, I'm gonna have to ask you
It's
to shut up. I'm gonna have to ask you to shut all the heck up. Well, see, Denise, you'd be dropping them too if you were catching them. That's so mean. How can you say that? Denise is hooked on. So how are you fighting this fish, Denise, for the folks at home?
Well, I'm just trying to keep the line as tight as possible.
Yep.
Because, well, last time I dropped the fish because I didn't do that.
Well, no, experience is the best teacher. Nice.
Trying to keep that bend in the rod as well.
Yep. What do you think it is?
It's not. Oh.
Oh, I know what it is.
Is that a brim?
No, but we haven't caught one of these in a long time. Silver trevally. Whoa.
Right.
Very nice. So Denise has
First fish
caught.
I've ever caught.
Yeah, she's caught. Yes, it was. So Denise has caught a little silver trevally. Ow. I forgot about the spines there. So she's caught a little silver trevally on that bloodworm grub. This is going to be a bit hard to get out. The way you want to get it out is sort of to identify where the hooks went in, and then sort of try and do the opposite. So if you can see, like, say that's the fish's mouth, the hook's gone in like that, you want to try and pop it out the way it came in, if that makes sense.
Actually showed a camera.
Yeah, you want to just, they get it. So the gear we use when we go out, both Denise and I have the same setup. We've got a Shimano Neck Save 2500 reel with a rod whose size I'm not sure of. Oh, there you go, 7-foot spinning rod, 6 to 12 pound. Yeah, which is like, I don't know what that is in kilos, but yeah, 6 to 12 pound. Is it double it? Sorry, to halve it to go from? Yeah, okay, so that's 3 to 6 kilo rod. We've got a 1/4 ounce jig head, I think 10 pound braid, 10 pound leader, and yeah, that is our setup. We chose a rod like this because it's got firmness to it, which is really good for, you know, fishing your lures and things like that. And it's just sort of the perfect size range for the river. Like I've caught everything from like 5 centimeter brim to like, I think the biggest mullet I've caught in this rod's been about 80 centimeters. So it's the perfect weight for bringing in those. We've got light braid just because I find it's just, you know, go light, get the bite, as they say. And braid's stupidly strong. Like I've seen them, like, so the braid is made, they get several strands and sort of wrap them together like rope. I've seen it where all the strands bar one have been cut, and the guy that was fishing that still brought in a mullet on it, which was just super impressive. But yeah, braid is just tough as guts. So I've only got 10 pound there because that's all I need, and 10 pound leader because I was fishing for brim on this, so I went 10 pound. But there's still a fair bit of structure around, so I want something with a little bit of, you know, a little bit of strength to it, but not too much as to spook the fish. So yeah, 10 pound leader, 10 pound braid on a 3 to 6 kilo rod with a size 2500 reel. You can go like a 3000, they're pretty much the same physical size reel. It's just a 3000 have a bit more line on it, but the 2500 was cheaper, so I went for that one. So lure selection seems daunting because there's a lot of options out there, but it boils down to a few basic principles. So there's a bit of a saying in fishing, it's called matching the hatch. So when you see bait around, that's usually 9 times out of 10 what you want to be mimicking. So for example, today we've seen lots of sort of small mullet moving around. So I'm going to put on something like this. So as you can see there, he's smacked it and it's gone right through his lip. I forget the exact name of this lure, but something like this. Whereas, for example, if I was seeing a lot of, I don't actually have a cranker crab here, but if I was seeing a lot of crabs, I'd put that on. Or if it was over a weed bed and there was lots of squid and things and we're out in the ocean, I'd put on a squid vicious, which is in there somewhere. Or, you know, if we're fishing some structure with a lot of brim, maybe something like this, a little crustacean imitation. But pretty much whatever bait you know is around or you're seeing is what you want to be throwing. So today that means this little guy. In regards to the hook, it depends on the lure where you want to come out. So if you've got a lure like this, or say a bloodworm, you want that hook, and this one isn't hooked up amazingly well, but you want that hook to come out at around the midpoint, so you've got that good tail action. On a lure like Denise's got, which is a little grub, let's see if oh yeah, here we go. A little grub like this, you can get away with having the hook come out a little bit further back, because I find often with these, the fish whack it where that tail is. So if you've got the hook there, or at least a little bit further back, you can do fairly well. And if you've got something like a jerk shad, so as you can see there's a little jerk shad in there, you want your hook to be coming out in that first third, because a lot of that action again is in that tail sort of flopping like this. So if you put a hook too far back, you impede that action and you'll get less bites. It's always a bit of a trade-off. Like the further back your hook is, the less action you will get, but the better hook up rate you'll generally get, because if a fish bites it here, I'm not going to get hooked up. It's only if it gets it there, I'll hook up. But generally speaking, for your paddle tail and your wrigglers, that's around the halfway point. For your grubs, I'd say it's the first 2/3 of the plastic you can get away with, and for your jerk shads, I'd say generally around that first third. Well, that was a huge mullet jump over there. Alright, so one of the different lures you can use is gulp lures. So gulp lures are a bit special in that they come sort of infused with scent. So you definitely don't want to put any scent on them, because often that'll clash and give you something that's not so good. So in terms of retrieve, there's two main ones I like to do. The first one is hopefully what you just saw then, which is the prawn kick. So, I've got a tap. Which is sort of two little, I think it's just in the bottom, two little sort of taps of your rod tip, just as you're moving it back. So you sort of hold it still and then you go tap, tap back. And that just sort of mimics a bait fish feeding on the bottom that's sort of twitching like that along the bottom. If you want to target a bit sort of wider thing, you can do a double flick like that, which is where you do a big sort of hop, and then one in the slack as it comes down. Both will work. They'll work at different times for different things. It's really just dependent on the day and the species and how the bait's moving as well. But generally, if you're just starting out, I'd recommend that you cast out, let it sink for a little bit. Let it sink for a little bit. Make sure that you've got tight line, because you're not going to be able to feel those bites or set the hook otherwise. You need to have that tight line. And then give it a nice double flick, wind in the slack, let it sit there. The baseline for how long I let it sit there is about 7 seconds. If it's cold, like if the water's cold, I'll do it for longer. If the water's warm, I'll do it for shorter. But generally around that 7-second mark. And yeah, you just keep repeating that until you get a bite. And when you get a bite, it'll literally feel like something tapping on your line. And whenever you feel that, you want to strike. Even if you're not sure, you're better off just striking, to me, because there's nothing worse than losing a fish that you should have hooked. So yeah, you'll know it pretty quick what it's like. And sometimes the fish will just whack your lure so hard you don't even need to strike. But it's good to get into the practice of, you know, having your lure out there, and if you feel a bite, just strike. So in terms of what jig heads to use, while you're starting out, I'd just go a 1/4 ounce jig head. I think that'll 9 times out of 10 get you down fast enough, but also not be so heavy that it turns the fish off. Yeah, so generally a 1/4 ounce is the way to go. If you have fast flowing water or you're targeting fish that are particularly deep down the water column, you can go a little bit heavier. If you're going for brim, or you're targeting more fish that are on the surface, you can go a little bit lighter. But if you're just starting out, I would just go a 1/4 ounce all day. And once you find the fish, then you can sort of tweak up what you're doing to suit. But generally speaking, 1/4 ounce is your best bet. So pretty much all lures you should put scent on. If it's a gulp, you don't need to, because they have that like infused into their thing. But generally, if you mix brands of scents, they sort of clash and react, and it just doesn't smell right to the fish. So the best thing to do is, when you've got your new pack of lures, put one on, give it, you know, somewhere between 2 and 5 casts, or depending on how it's going. And yeah, and then whack on your favorite scent. So when you're casting, it's fairly simple. You just want to hold that line with your finger, flick that bail arm so that the line can just move freely. Hold that line with your finger, flick the bail arm, and then just flick your rod tip out. There's a bit of a, you know, technique to it, but that's more or less what you're doing. And once your lures hit the water, again, depending on how you're fishing, but for a plastic like this, you just want to let a little bit of line out, flick your bail arm, and then you can start working it as you see fit. Oh, I'm on. Oh, I dropped it. No, I didn't.
Oh, nice.
Wow, that didn't take long. First cast. Oh, can you take my hat out of the net? Definitely. Yeah, well, it's been in the water. So definitely a flatty, this one, I think. Probably decent size. Alright, we got leader. Yeah, good size flatty. There you go. So that one we just caught with a little double, sort of a prawn kick. So we cast our lure out and just sort of twitched our rod tip just to give that lure a nice little bit of action. And there you go. On the gulp bloodworm, that one. Oh, come on, mate. You're not making this easier for anyone. Alright, there we go. We'll probably let this guy go. It is too, you know. Holy smokes, that's a big log. I dropped it again.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, I dropped it again.
Oh, Max. Ow. Oh, metal hot. Ouch. It hurts.
You better, I swear to God, if you don't cast to your left, I'm going to scream. Oh, cast to your left right now.
Which way left?
Not that way. You better bloody catch a fish. Jesus Christ, this guy's fucking mental. Ow! He's just flapping around like crazy. Stop your nut job. Well, he's gone.
In this short clip, I'm briefly going to show how to properly dispatch a flathead, and then what I do to keep them fresh, and how I treat the fish after it's been dispatched.
with flathead, you want to find the two eyes and then take their two eyes and then make a triangle. So it'd be about here. I ended out the nasty bits, but yeah, that's how that's done. And then you want to bleed your fish as well. Yeah, I've seen a few different things about how to properly bleed a fish, but I think if you do all the above, you should. So I usually just cut this, and then I go into the intestines as well. And that's supposed to be the best way to bleed it, apparently. And then if your knife is sharp enough, I like to make a little incision there. And take that, keep cutting that down. To the anus, and then up as far as you can go. And then you can get all those guts out, and that keeps the fish fresh for much longer. Most of it should just pull out. Some of it you'll have to cut. The esophagus is pretty tough on these fish, so you will have to cut that, but the rest of it should just pull out nice and easy, and that fish will stay fresh for a lot longer now and have a better taste as well. And then that's your prepared flatty, and then you put that in your esky or whatever. I usually give it a quick wash. Yeah, 45, 50, well true. I usually like to give it a quick wash as well. But yeah, that's how you do it. Beautiful, fresh flathead. They do say to not wash it with fresh water. You want to use salt water. It apparently just makes the meat a bit nicer. And they say if you can avoid freezing it, you should. It tastes better if it's all completely fresh. But he's a really nice looking, healthy flathead. So we'll put him away, and that should be good to go. So in terms of the tides and times to fish, it really doesn't matter. The general consensus is that dawn and dusk. Well, that braid's really scuffed. I'm gonna have to switch that up soon.
Sorry.
No, you're right. The general consensus is that dawn and dusk are the best, which is pretty true. But it's different for different fish. So for your flathead, for example, you can catch them any time of the day. But they I find, a little bit of run in the system. Whereas something like bream, I find, again, just my personal experience, but sort of just after that slack tide on either side, I find I catch most of my bream. And yeah, different species will, feed more or less at different times. And a lot of that's just sort of trial and error to figure that out, but yes. Yeah, so yeah, any time is good, but dawn and dusk are best. And in terms of tides, I find for a spot like this at Greenhill Point, yeah, let's try it. Ooh.
I don't know what the hell that was.
Could have been a little bream or something, or toadfish even will sit there and peck. Oh yeah, you are. The rivers, obviously I like a big tide with a lot of salt, a lot of fresh water coming in. Yeah, but having said that, a low tide can be good around the mousy rivers because you've got all that water sucking fish out and your predators will just sort of sit there and take advantage of that. It's really horses for courses. You can make any tide and any time work. You just have to target the right thing in the right way. So, I should be in there. So when you're fishing, I'll go 12 pounds. There's only really 3 knots you need to know. There's the blood knot, the FG knot, and the loop knot. So Denise will show you the loop knot, and I'm going to show you the FG knot now, and then promptly after, probably a blood knot. So the FG knot, it is a fairly simple knot. All you're doing, FG knot. So it's a braid to leader knot. So you want to take your leader and bend it like that and just pinch the top of that loop. Pinch the top of that loop. So you've got just your leader bent over like that. Sorry. Then you want to grab your braid, put it in through that loop, give yourself a bit, a few centimeters down, and pinch it at the apex of that loop there. Then you want to wrap it around both those pieces of your leader. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, approximately 8 times, a bit more, a bit less depending on what gear you've got, but around 8 times. And then you want to wrap it back around the opposite way the same number of times. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you want to, there we go. Yeah, and then you lubricate it, just pull those tag ends so you get rid of those knots, those sort of loops, and then pull it tight, and there you go. Yeah, that is your FG knot. And then you want to cut the tag ends, and then you sweep. And the big advantage of this knot is, unlike some other knots, you don't wind up with sort of a ball in your line. So this can run through your eyelets with pretty much no resistance. Yeah, as close as you can be to that. And you can always hear, like, I hear some other YouTubers when they cast, you hear like that tung 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 tung. It's like the knots are going through the eyelets. That's not what you want. Because every time that happens, you're actually weakening that knot, which just means when you do finally catch a fly in the eye, when you do finally hook onto a good fish, you can bet that the first thing that'll fail will be that knot. And there's nothing worse than fishing a whole day, catching like 1 or 2 fish, and then you hook onto an absolute monster and you lose it because then you get a bite. No. And then you lose it because you didn't do the knot properly. Alright, so that's knot 1. Denise will show you knot 2.
Alright, so I have my chosen lure and jig head. 1/4 ounce. I don't know what size this is. Do you know?
No idea. I just got the rod. Oh, that's why I picked up weed.
Oh. Whoops. First step is to tie a knot. But don't pull all the way. Just want it like that. Put the leader through. And it depends on how thick your leader is, right? How many turns you do.
Yeah, it's about
so.
There's more friction with a thicker leader, so you want to do less knots.
Yeah. So I think this is 10-pound braid, so I'm going to do 3. I've been doing 3.
Okay. If you're happy with 3.
I'm happy with 3. And then that just goes through that first loop that we made. And just pull it. Lube it up. And pull tight.
Oh, I got it.
And there you have a loop knot.
So pretty much what you want to do is take a jig head or whatever you're tying on and your loop. I wouldn't actually do it with a jig head. It's more so for your vibes and for your bait rigs that are using this knot, but anyway. You're putting it through the eye there and putting your finger like on the eye and then crossing it over. So you've got like a little loop with your finger in it. Then you're going to wrap it around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, approximately 7 times. You probably want to do more if it's lighter leader, less if it's heavier, and then back through that loop at the start, lubricate it, and then pull it tight. But we're not going to do that knot because it's actually not the best one for jig heads. Oh, I'm on. I think it's a flatty.
I don't know. Oh, it looks, especially by the bend in the rod, I think there's a decent amount of weight there. Oh, I can see her. Oh, I dropped him.
Oh, it was a flatty.
Yeah, it was. It was probably around 45-ish, I'd say. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't as big as our first one, but anyway, that's what we caught it on. The Z-Man, that one.
Midnight oil?
No, midnight
Motor
oil's-
oil.
Yeah, it's the motor oil coloration, but I think it's got like a specific name for this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a bit of crab scent, and yeah, that motor oil coloration. That. There we go. So that's a nice floody there. Oh, you can see that hook's gone right in the snout as well, so that should be easy enough to unhook. So yeah, so you can see the fish are very energetic today. So we can see the hook's gone in like that, so we're just going to try and push it back out the way it came, and there we go. Here's a nice little floody. I'll give him a measure. What do you reckon? Oh, 51?
52.
52? Yeah, I reckon you're probably about right. Nice 52 centimetre flatty. Definitely could do worse than that.